Welcome back to Good Moms, Bad Choices.
I'm Erica.
And I'm Milah.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, darling. How are you feeling?
I'm high, so there's that. That's always nice. I did a wake and bake this morning. I haven't really been smoking too much weed in the morning lately. And so, yeah, it's a nice little shift. You know, when you like smoke weed consistently all the time, I think like your body gets like
too used to it.
This could either go really good or really bad. And let's be honest, because if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you know when a bitch gets high, she sometimes gets a little more dumb. So we're just we're gonna put that energy here today.
I think you're fine. You smoked a while ago. I was measuring the time in which we smoked against the time we started, so I think that we're good.
Well, now if you say so, then must be true.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You know what? Do you want to join me in some Milah moans?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, ready? I'm just gonna take some deep breaths and let out some deep, delicious moans. You ready?
Yeah, if you're listening, don't close your eyes while driving.
But if you're not driving,
but if you're on the train, close your eyes.
And just take a deep inhale. And exhale some passionate, sexy moans. Doesn't that feel good? All of the OG retreat members are like, oh, I remember this. I like this.
You remember that from the retreat, y'all?
We're doing hey, good vibe tribe. We do a lot of sensual moaning sound. Lots of sounds happen at the retreat.
That's just level 1 sound. There's actually probably like 4 or 5 levels that we achieve.
We unlock, but only towards like the end of the retreat do you get your like.
It's almost like it's an unlocking. It's like Mario Kart.
It is like an unlocking that happens, and then by the end we all get our call, like the tribal call.
You get
and you guys, if you
get your final attunement, like here you go.
Like
there's an orchestra of moaning women.
It is. It's really beautiful.
That must be what heaven sounds like.
It's true. You'd be surprised the amount of like unlocking that can happen just with sound, and like it unlocks the emotions and the feelings in your body. So I'm happy. I think we should start like incorporating that more.
And if you want to moan with us more, we did just announce our next retreat in Sayulita, Mexico. We're taking over an amazing, beautiful property. It's all ours. It's private. It's ocean front. Every room is ocean view. It's all inclusive. We're going to be doing lots of moaning, lots of dancing,
lots of releasing, lots of healing, lots of
relaxing and hanging out.
Yes, lots of manifesting as a collective. And, of course, a lot of community and sisterhood.
And exploring. We're going to go check out a lot of beautiful places in the new space that, me and Milah have only been once. So this is a very new...
this is a new destination for the Good Vibe Retreat. We're really excited to see what magic that we get to unlock. This place is called, isn't it called Puerto de Mexico?
Pueblo Mágico. Magic Pueblo.
And I'm Magic Milah, so I'm really excited to see what powers that get unlocked. We're doing 2 dates, and they're both in July 5th and July 12th.
And I hope you guys have been enjoying the Good Vibe sessions or the Good Vibe segment that we've been releasing. We've been dropping a bonus episode with some testimonials from past attendees. And it's just so beautiful to see how the experience touches them in different ways and unlocks things that they need.
And we recorded them there on the property, so you can hear like the birds chirping in the background. You can really get the Costa Rican good vibe essence. So make sure you check that out. And also don't forget to visit our merch store and support some single mamas with our beautiful designed by us designs.
And we'll leave all these links in the episode description. And obviously, our book is on pre-order, A Good Mom's Guide to Making Bad Choices.
And we have some really dope gifts with purchase. As long as you support us and get the book pre-sale, it means you get it May 2nd. You'll be the first to receive your book. Just go ahead and knock that out and get the free shit, girl.
And with that being said, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hey, hello,
hello, hello, hello, hey, hello, hello.
Still manifesting, Erica Badu.
I
Happy belated birthday, too.
If you know her, send her through.
I think that we need to get the girls in on this manifestation. Like, obviously the listeners, but I think like our kids.
Oh yeah,
we need to like a group.
The other day, Irie was just singing Erica Badu like in the shower, and I was like, "This is such a proud moment."
Yeah, the other day, me and Orlando asked Luna to read our futures, and she said we're going to be together till we DIE, and also that mommy's going to get a YouTube plaque.
Wow.
Yeah, for 100,000 subscribers. I was like, wow, you're watching too much YouTube. And also, thank you. Thank you. That is a beautiful manifestation for us. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what? You might be let me tap in. Let me use this magic that I got.
Okay, Luna. I love that. Well, anyway, you guys, we have a special guest here that I'm really excited to have on the show. As you know, we are focusing on plant medicine this month, and we thought what better guest to have than Mikaela de la Michael, the mushroom womb educator herself, mama, and just overall inspiration and such an incredible educator. I feel like I've learned so much in such a short time on your page. I love how digestible all the things that you share are, and they're so interesting too. I think a lot of the masses don't really know a lot about plant medicine in general, and just all with the variations of it all. You know, you hear plant medicine and you think of like ayahuasca, or you think of mushrooms, or you think of things that have like these like psychedelic properties, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's so amazing just being here at this time, right? With these kinds of movements, we're resurrecting a really old archetype. And I always say that I stand at the intersection of psychedelic mom, medicine woman, and sacred hoe.
Okay. I need to add sacred hoe to my
Please do, because we can exist all at once. I think there's this kind of like idea that like you're either on this like super pious path, or you're like, serving medicine, and you're in this way in your life that kind of removes you from sexuality. But I feel that intimacy and sensuality and sexuality like deepens like your strength as a medicine person. And a lot of these traumas and a lot of these like up levels and these other octaves of like existing actually get unlocked in intimacy, and intimacy sometimes with the entheogens. So that sacred hope part I think is really important, and so I hope we can resurrect that, and I hope that we could talk about it a little bit more too, because it's such an important part of so many of our paths, and probably the paths that you've walked in your lives too. Just from what you were sharing a little bit earlier, like she is sacred hope.
Sacred hoe crew.
Sacred hoe since high school.
So yeah, just really honored to be here. Like I've been on the news. I was like on the local news in San Diego talking about microdosing to like Channel 8 or whatever.
Wow,
and that
major.
shit was crazy. Yeah, I was like, my fiance is just like tripping. He's just like, are you sure you want to be this public? And I'm like, we have to be. Like, we can talk openly about cannabis because there were people that were down to talk about cannabis, like back when things were getting destigmatized. And I feel like then, what's coming is these entheogens and the plant medicines and the sacred fungi allies. So why not be there with that movement?
Can you explain to our audience who don't know what entheogens are?
It's quite a word.
What that is?
Yeah. So I'm a mush womb educator. So the intersection of entheogen education and womb wisdom. So the entheogen and all of that is a combination of Greek words. En is in, theo is God, and then gen is to generate. So it means to generate the God within. So entheogen are plants and other non-human relatives, can even be human relatives, that help ignite and allow us to discover the divinity within ourselves. And that's what a lot of these medicines do, and can assist us in doing for ourselves too.
What is your journey into this space? I mean, like, is your mother a hippie and she was into entheogenetics?
I inherited from
entheographer? Or like, how did you, step into this space and tap into this?
Yeah, what's the access point? How did all of this get started? I mean, for so many of us, like when I first sat with the mushroom, it was very clear that I was home. It was like a very familiar space, which surprised me because I'd never actually had parents or family or anyone that really even talked about mushrooms. So I was like, why is this so familiar? And my mother was born and raised in very rural Italy, and she lived in like a mountaintop town, 2,000 people, all the babies were born at home. The nearest hospital was like 2 hours away. So we're talking about a community that is like really invested with the medicine that's like right in front of them. So the plants, and we're talking about plant medicine, that includes all the plants, right? Like some herbalist educators say that all plants are entheogenic in their own way. Like a rose can teach you so much.
They all have like properties that can be healing.
This magic, this inherent like wisdom about each and every one of them.
Well, they're alive. They're living species.
And they have an intelligence, the same way that they talk about madre, you know, ayahuasca, Santa Maria, cannabis, like they all have an intelligence. And so like she comes from a long line of people that like knew how to listen to plants and like relied on them for everything that they needed in their life. And so the tattoos that I have on my hands are for her. So I have oregano, and then I also have rosemary. And then these are plants that we garden, we harvest. They're part of our food, and for us, like our healing came from the things that we ate in the kitchen. And so this perspective I have around entheogens comes from this practice of like folk knowledge, how knowledge is passed from like grandmother to granddaughter, from mothers to like their grandchildren, and, you know, among the family line. And I thank her so much for just the wisdom she really ingrained in me about being inherently suspicious of the system and like question everything, even the church. Like she got kicked out of the Catholic Church when she was like 12 or 13 years old for asking too many questions. And so that really led me down this road of like, what is the church done to human consciousness, and like what are laws trying to keep us away from, you know? So grateful for that piece. And then on my father's side of the family, my ancestors are Mexican, from the borderlands, so actually peyote territory. And also mushrooms are a big part of the Mexica, Azteca, Mayan consciousness. And when the Spaniards came by, that was like one of the removals from the Mexican people was their relationship with the sacred mushroom. So there was like everything screaming in my body when I came to the mushroom. I was like, I'm back. Like I found this level of consciousness again that had been like so removed from so many people in my family. And then of course, like my Caribbean ancestors are like dancing and singing people and musical, and music is medicine as well. And so they have their own special tradition with the Orisha, the Yoruba tradition, voodoo, Santeria, that I think also gave me a lot of like blueprints for this specific flavor in which I like sit with medicine. So tried cannabis for the first time at age 12. And then I sat with LSD and I was like, whoa. I don't know if y'all have ever tried LSD before.
Yeah, I have.
It's, it'll crack you wide open. So
I got cracked.
It's a long journey, but you know what? After my first time sitting with LSD as a freshman in college, I felt it's so, because it grows it's from a fungus, right?
Okay, so I was gonna ask, is that
Where is
considered?
it from?
Yeah, I have no clue. I was just taking it, but I thought it was like a lab drug. But it
is.
does. Okay,
it's synthesized, but it has an organic derivative. Like it has an origin in nature, which is really great. I love LSD so much, and the reason we even know about LSD is because Albert Hofmann was studying traditional midwifery. This is like where this like mushroom thing kind of comes together here, is because a lot of the ways that we even know about entheogens is because lay midwives and people caring for other people with like womb care have been bringing these medicines in for a really long time. So actually LSD, its original constituent ergot is a fungus. So it's fungus kind of inspired and derived.
What would be the purpose for it in midwifery?
What were they searching for?
Yeah. So they were finding a to induce labor.
Oh, like a natural induction, as versus not taking like the hormone from like whatever they're taking it from now.
Yeah, it's not Pitocin, which is synthetic oxytocin, but the traditional midwives found that when they would like give a woman who is in stalled labor ergot, that it would progress her stalled labor because it causes uterine contraction. So it's kind of an emmenagogue, actually. So he was studying that, and then found like was trying to actually make like an induction medication, and then this gets synthesized, and he tried it, and then here we have Bicycle Day, April 19th. So that's the first bike ride that anyone ever took on acid. Was
really Bicycle Day on what day?
Bicycle Day, April 19th.
Do we need to ride a bike and take acid that day?
A lot of people do. I'm going to be speaking in San Francisco on that day, like for Bicycle Day. It's like a big celebration in San Francisco.
Do we need to have like a bicycle?
Is everyone on LSD on Bicycle Day? They have to be.
A lot of people, yeah. And then 420s right after. So it's just this big, like,
oh shit.
You know what I mean?
They block off the streets. I don't need to worry about cars on acid. Anyway, so I just want to run.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be around a lot of people on LSD. I mean, I haven't. I mean, my LSD experience wasn't like yours. It was. It was for sure intense and trippy, but it wasn't. I don't think I went into it. I know you didn't necessarily go into it with an intention, but you kind of did.
I did. We set an intention.
You did. I was just saying that too. Like you had set the tone also in that trip of like surrender, which I think then even further deepened your experience with it. Yeah. Whereas mine was at a music festival.
Oh, word. It's hard to go within at a music festival.
It was just purely about kind of getting fucked up. It wasn't. There was no intention behind it. I'd be interested to take it now, like now with intention. I use medicine in such a different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, I think, about trying that first was, or like having that big experience first, is just it set a really cool foundation for that surrender. Like getting used to the idea that like you're not going to be completely in control of like your journey, but like an observer of the contents or like the unconscious material of your mind. And the only thing you really have in those moments is, of course, like the container, the set and setting of where you're at, and also like coping skills like breathing techniques and like tapping and other things to help like trauma and like memories just move through the body. And so if you learn those skills, basically you can carry those skills into any environment, like birth even. And so like the realms they apply to each other. And when I was sitting with LSD, I was like, I just need to get my hands in some soil, because it was really heady. I don't know if you remember, but it's like lots of thoughts moving quickly, like really colorful, but it can be really ungrounding. And we kind of talked about grounding. So I wanted to like go to a garden and just like sit my feet in the soil and be like, okay, I'm still on planet Earth though. And I kind of searched for something that gave me both, that I could have these expansive thoughts, emotional processing, but also I felt very much in my body. Yeah. And so that's when mushrooms came, and I was like, oh, this is home. Like, this is fucking hitting. Like, and then when I started mixing mushrooms with other herbs, like holy basil or rose or chamomile or ginger, I was like, oh, it's a fucking wrap. Like, these medicines know how to talk to each other really well, and it creates for a really beautiful, well-rounded experience. So, that was 9 years ago.
Well, that's what I thought. That's super impressive, because when I think about, I'm like, damn, what if I would have had this like intentional LSD experience in college? I would have been like a whole different bitch for a decade. I would have changed the game. I just did this shit like 3 years ago. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
but
never
like,
too late.
Too late. Like, because now I have the veil has been like the cloak's been removed. But
it's so important.
What gave you the well, I guess because you were just already had a relationship with the plants to just go at that age early, intentionally, just like, let me go here and see what happens.
Oh my gosh. So like, what was the intention to try LSD for the first time?
Were you like trying to have a spiritual breakthrough, or were you just like, let's try it?
I think the best way is it was offered to me.
Okay.
So someone was like, I was in college, and then we were in the origins of the universe. It was like an elective. And this guy that he was just sitting in the back row watching the Giants game. He's like from the Bay, hyphy as fuck. And he's like, do you really want to like see the origins of the universe?
Like a fucking movie.
Not him watching the Giants game.
In the back row.
This class.
Wizard.
Fuck this class.
A football-loving secret wizard.
But the sorcerers come in different,
That's what I'm
kind of
saying.
different forms. Don't let it get past you. Be the least likely place. You're like, what the fuck? Are you a wizard?
And he was like mixed too. So I was just like, wait, what are you talking about? You know, and where are we gonna go?
You're my people. What?
He's like, I'll show you. And I think that also, for me really disrupts this notion that all of this is like hippie shit. Even you asked like, oh, your parents hippies, your family's hippies. It's like the hippie revolution like did so much to like ingrain in the cultural consciousness that like only white people take psychedelics. And so for, you know, someone who's like melanated to like, you know, offer this to me, I'm like, okay, maybe this is somewhere I can feel safe.
Maybe this is not some white people shit.
Maybe this is somewhere I could feel supported, or someone who could like see me or process with me or whatever it is. And, I was absolutely true, but we were also like drinking Henny and listening to like E40 while it was going on, but like still really expansive and very really balanced. Helpful and valuable. Yeah, it was very balanced. And I found that as I continued to eat mushrooms or I continued to sit with other groups, I just noticed like some groups felt right and some groups just didn't hit, you know, and some places felt right and some places just didn't. And so when I started to find elders and I started to, in a way, like refine this path and like find a place and a space that felt really right for me, that's when the healing started to accelerate. It was like the mushrooms were kind of actually clearing out so much. It was like, not this group, not this space, not these behaviors, not these practices. And it does a really wonderful, subtle adjustment of your entire life if you just choose to kind of follow what it wants to tell you. Some medicine is more abrupt than others. Like ayahuasca is just like, bam, slap in the face. Like she'll just tell you like everything that's wrong. Sometimes it'll just be like, I'll help you clear it out all right now. And mushrooms, I find that they worked with me in a really gentle way. So I'm grateful for that because I needed gentleness.
Right. I always say that mushrooms are a gentle shift. Like,
yes.
Come here, baby. Let me show you. You're fucking up.
I saw that. I know you talk and share a lot of your expertise in womb healing and womb care. And I was reading, or I was looking on your page, and you were talking about using mushrooms and other herbs too during, I guess, going into your moon or your period. For those who don't know what that is,
your
menstrual cycle, and using it and using plant medicine to, journey you through those days. Yeah. Can you talk to us about what kind of medicine you use, or maybe even what you would recommend that maybe more women should, tap into?
Absolutely. So yeah, womb care is such a deep continuum, and like I'm answering I know it's a big
daily.
Question, of course. But just laying go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say I know it's a big question too, because everyone's needs in this space too are different.
That's exactly it.
You know,
and every question there's so many nuances. There's so many like a variety of factors. Like the people with PCOS are all so extremely different than each other. The people dealing with endo are extremely different from each other. But even in the language that we utilize to talk about our relationship with plants, like I use mushrooms, I use plants. It's like, well, is that relationship? Are you trying to use your friends? So being in relationship with some plants have like really changed the way that people cycle, people connect with their menstruation, people can heal. So for me, some of my choice plants that are absolute amazing womb allies, I really work with emmenagogues. Emmenagogues are plants that help you bleed. That's what a emmenagogue means. It means to support the flow of your menses. And so for a lot of people, most of the folks that I deal with and talk to are like, am I pregnant? I don't want to be pregnant. Like, can you help me? My period's late for whatever reason. And so emmenagogues have become like an avenue that I've kind of focused in because it's a need, especially in a post-Roe v. Wade world right now. And not only are emmenagogues helpful for assisting bleeding, but also easing the process of bleeding. So there's also a lot of people that are dealing with like cramps, heavy menstruation, or like PMS, or these other symptoms of the womb. So when you said, plants leading into your menstruation, like this is the period we really like to work with plants that have emmenagogue properties and also can like ease flow and allow us to release in an easeful way. So the choice emmenagogue plants that I like to lean on during these times are, I love to work with angelica root. Dong Quai is the traditional Chinese medicine word for this plant, and it's a uterine contractant, and it also is a uterine tonic. So it helps your uterus to like remain strong and have a regular hormonal balance. And so angelica root is a choice. You can use it through all phases of your cycle, but right before menstruation, it seems to be really helpful for bringing on the menstruation, like when it's due. Mm-hmm. whether you're pregnant or not, which is cool. Also, I really like to work with things like, I work with nervines a lot. So holy basil, Tulsi tea, if you are familiar with Tulsi.
I've heard of holy basil.
They're the same.
Okay.
Tulsi and holy basil are the same. So people that are dealing with premenstrual symptoms and they're kind of like irritated, for example. There's a lot of different needs during that time of the cycle, but a nervine means to kind of like soften the experience of the nervous system. And sometimes like people, when they're getting really agitated or irritated, they just need a little bit of like a soft like support, just like, yo, it's gonna be okay, don't need to stress, don't need to get anxious. So holy basil is choice. Rose is also choice. And rose mostly in that the way that roses open, they kind of like unfurl. And so when we're thinking about release and we're thinking about bleeding, it can be like this unfurling. Like we're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to like let myself open, as opposed to like straining to like I want to push my blood out. It's like
stuffing tampons up your pussy.
Girl.
Yeah.
This is not the time to make the body want to shut up. This is the time to like allow the body full expression. And
I think as women, we've been kind of ashamed in ways around that. I mean, I know some women, if you're listening, might have only used pads their whole life, but then some women are like super tamponed up, like, never even considered a pad. I was one of those women. Like,
me too.
I think I maybe wore pads for like the first 5 or 6 months of me having my menstrual cycle. And then I figured out how to put a tampon in, and it was over from there.
Well, pads feel gross, right? Like
they're
like high and like made of plastic.
Right.
And it's just terrible for your body.
But I think like sometime in the last like 2 years, I stopped using tampons at all, and now and then just becoming more, I guess, less ashamed of your period and just more aware of it. And it's so crazy because in the last, I'd say last year, I've been having a lot of conversations with women about their periods, and I think it's become more not just something you kind of are ashamed about. And I feel like the more that I talk about it, the more that I'm aware of it, and even the more education I get around the idea of rest when you have your period. I just realized I'm so much more like aware of like how I feel during my period. Even this last period I had, I was like clotting a lot, and like I was just feeling really tired. And normally I wouldn't even associate my period with why I'm tired. I just like, oh, it must be like stressed out or something, or like you're not associating the fact that you are like
releasing a ton of nutrients.
I was gonna say hemorrhaging, but
yeah,
it's not a nice word to say either.
Right. You're shedding an endometrial lining.
Yeah, that's not cute. It's also probably based in shame. You're not hemorrhaging, girl.
You're gonna survive.
But you're not gonna die.
Right. But low-key, some people are though, and I think that's actually important to address, is that some people like are cycling in a way that there's like a giant body dump that's happening, and not every period needs to be heavy. Like they say that the menstrual cycle is like the 5th vital sign. Like looking at how often you menstruate and how heavily and for how long can really give us an indication of health. And so if someone is like filling up like super jumbo tampons like for 7 days straight or something, like that's actually something we might want to look at and be like, can we bring in some other plant allies? For example, black haw. And black haw was like used also in the South. And so for women of the like African diaspora, like this is maybe a plant that they would have come in contact with, and it softens uterine contractions. It could stop an abortion like in its tracks. So it like really releases the edge on like the uterus and can soften cramps and can like really slow down bleeding. So can yarrow. So like plants can do so many things, and education is liberation. So if people are like, there's no shame in saying like hemorrhaging, because that shit does happen. But it's not to shame the person for experiencing it. It's to use it as a sign. It's to read it as a marker of health. And plants can support a person coming into balance with their own health and their bleeding.
Yeah. It's so crazy how like so early on we kind of know immediately it's a hush hush thing. Like it's not anything to like, it's nothing to necessarily be
I got my period.
Yeah, like to be celebrated. It's like fuck, like even I got my period and I told my dad and he's like, what, make it stop. I was like, I can't.
Gosh.
And then I immediately,
it's the whole society.
Immediately I was like, tampon. I'm like, I don't want to like have to deal with this thing. Like, if it's in, it's out. I don't see it type thing. But I think people, because we're so ashamed of it and it's such like a hush hush topic so early, is that we like, even as you're discussing like developing relationships with herbs, developing even like, you know, in school, I'm in tantra school, like developing relationships with elements, you know, I'm realizing the importance of like the development of the relationship of like even the things that we haven't put a lot of emphasis on. And I think it's so interesting because like if I think about it, this is not a popular statement, but like I would forget like I was bleeding and I would just like be pantyless, and then I'm like, oh fuck, you know, like my first instinct is not to stuff it or like conceal it.
Let's talk about that.
You know
Let's talk about
like,
free bleeding, please.
Free bleeding. And I was like, there wasn't a word for that except like, bitch, you're dumb. You keep bleeding on the floor. Like, go put something on. Like, this is like in my house. But I started to notice that like my body didn't feel like I needed to be like, but socially, I was like, if anyone was like, bitch, you're dripping on the floor. But it was only something that I was aware, like I started to be like subconsciously aware of or consciously aware of, that I really didn't want to be wearing these things. And then like Erica got me the Madi bodies.
What is that?
Like of the panty.
The period underwear.
Yeah, okay, the period underwear. Shout out to Madi Body. But
wearing them right now.
Right. And I was thinking about even what you're saying, like in the last 2-3 years, we've come into contact with women that were having conversations about the menstrual and how, once upon a time everyone in the village would give whoever's on their period their prayers, and they would go away and only take the small babies that can, like the kids go. Everyone was kind of in like prayer mode. Like we were like women were connecting with spirit and with source, and everyone
we were powerful because we could do this thing together, in these red tents.
And then I'm thinking like as our show has progressed and like we've strengthened we've become more aware of certain things and like more bold in speaking about things and talking to different educators and different people. It's like we have been like awakened in ways and like less shamed about like, I stopped taking birth control last month, or fucking Nelly talking about her moon, and encouraging me to get off of birth control. But it's like we've attracted a lot of witches, like in our circle, because that's how the world works. When you put your vibration out, you get your people. So it's just like even the awakening. And you even saying in the beginning, the resurrecting. Like last week I changed my bio and I was like resurrecting the wild women, and then I like let it sit for 7 days, and I was like, resurrecting, people might get triggered by that, and then I changed it to something else. But I'm like, it's true, because this is information that our bodies know, that our spirits know, that we've visited before, and they're familiar to us, and we don't know why. And if you're not careful, you're like, that is some white people hippie ass shit, like I don't do that, girl. But it's like, actually you do, and you've done it before. Yes, and now it's time to remember, like the relationships with like energies and plants and your period, and like the reawakening, the reemerging of that natural indigenous human that we've been brainwashed away from.
The earth relies on our blood. The earth gives her blood. And
let's talk about menstrual harvesting. Let's talk about that.
It's like phase 1 is free bleed. Phase 2 is giving blood to the land. No, it's and also just how to hold your menstrual blood, how to capture your menstrual blood. I used to really talk about this a lot on TikTok, and TikTok's like, nah, you cannot show your menstrual blood on this platform anymore. It just was like video down, video down, video down. I was like, but people need to see this, because it's going away one way or another. So does it want to be in a tampon at a Walmart, or do you want to have access to your own body parts and be able to have some agency around where it goes and what you would like to do with it? Because this is not biological waste, and the concept and the idea that menstrual fluid is biological waste product comes from Hippocrates, comes from a Greek scientist who couldn't have been more wrong about what menstruation was. It also comes from Aristotle, who is seen as like the father of biology, and he really believed that like women get like all stored up with this mania, and that the only way to cure it is to just like get pregnant or get married. And so it's just like the whole society was misogynistic, and our Western medical culture is like based on Hippocratic oaths, based around the frameworks laid out by these Greek guys that just had no idea about like the magic and the medicine of menstruation. And they stole a lot of shit from ancient Egypt. Like we all know that the Pythagorean theorem was like already laid out in the Egyptian pyramids. So it's just like, bro, like what are we even trying to do here? The Egyptian and Kemetic society had already laid out such an incredible framework for like understanding the needs of the bleeding body. So much so that in the Ebers Papyrus, 1500 BC, there was a recipe for abortion and a gynecological aspect of its manual to like serve bleeding bodies. And so I'm like, you're going to take everything, but you're not even going to take this vital piece of information about menstrual blood. And so for the last 2,600 years, we've been under the impression that menstrual blood is
well, that
like
wouldn't
poisonous.
Empower the woman. I mean, of course, they're not going to take that. That would definitely not empower
and
the woman.
They're not going to hold on to ma'at either, which I was like, that's like
they're
one
going
of
to
the
shame us and make us all feel weird for even listening to this conversation. For those that are listening and are like, oh my God, they're talking about putting menstrual blood and period blood, and what are they doing? What are they doing with our blood?
There's so many benefits to not just holding on to one's own menstrual blood and like offering it to the land, but there are nutritional components of menstrual blood. I mean, this is the original soil from which the sperm or a seed will be implanted. So think of like the uterine lining as like the rich soil of the earth, essentially, and like all the nutrients needed in order to nourish a life and support it in its earliest phases, which seem to be the most important. Are all contained within. So that includes stem cells, that includes over 324 different proteins that are only found in menstrual blood that the earth like just loves. And when I say the earth, I mean literally the microbiology in the soil. And so capturing menstrual blood can happen a lot of different ways. I'm currently bleeding and I'm using a sponge. So sponges are really important to me. They feel a little bit more natural to me. They're like really soft. I know you're in the sponge game too. But these are a Mediterranean silky like cosmetic grade sponge. So they're very, very soft and they're extremely absorbent. And like you just kind of stick them in and then like pull them out. And I think also the conversation of like our gross, like, oh, it's like menstrual blood. It's kind of messy, like it gets on your fingers. But how am I supposed to know the health of my body if I can't even see the blood? Like I need to see the color, the texture, smell it, like get a really deep understanding for like what is within my body. And the only way to know what's happening in your uterus without medical equipment is to read your menstrual blood. So the sponge is often what I use, and then I just rinse it with water and squeeze into a bowl, and I just have a beautiful bowl of like watered down menstrual blood that I can feed to my plants as fertilizer. I can give to my garden. I can just leave as an offering for the land. And I was taught by a wise sister of mine really early in my game. I had tons of mentors. Like everything that I'm fucking sharing right now is someone else taught me. And that's like the beauty of the womb link, because we don't own any of this information. This is like word of mouth. This is folk teaching. Like we're just sitting in circle. We're in a pink tent right now, you know, like teaching the womb wisdoms. And this is how it was always shared. And she said that when we remember to give our blood to the land, the men will come back from war. The land is going to receive it one way or another. And so menstrual blood is the only blood that is shed without violence. So if we can tip the scales a little bit, maybe we can tip the balance of violence in the world. And
it's like literally, like quite literally, like harvesting right back into the to the world. It's like community work from your body, like in the physical realm, you know. And we think about that energetically. We think about the shift, like the feminine, like dominance, that, you know, the resurrecting that's happening with the women, and like we're resurrecting. Like the wild woman is like reemerging, and so like when you are physically pouring yourself back into the world, that is physically pouring that femininity. Like, hey, wake up.
Yeah, we are like encoding the land with our dreams,
DNA,
our DNA, and that's an important point. Actually, there's like an old trick in gardening. So some of my friends, they like grow cannabis and things. So I'd love to bring Santa Maria back into this conversation. But there's an old school practice of putting seeds in the mouth. And so what that does is it gives the seeds your DNA. And so when you go and plant and it grows for you.
Like before you plant. Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. So the seeds are in your mouth, you plant it, and then it grows with your DNA in mind because it's like drenched in it. And so as breastfeeding mothers, we know and have been hopefully taught that when babies are suckling, their salivary glands are communicating to the breast, to the body, and the body is now making milk to fit their nutritional needs. How is the earth going to know what we need if we're not sweating and bleeding and pouring into it? So when we give the blood, when we give our tears, when we give whatever we want to give to the land, it's telling the earth, like, this is me. This is what I am. This is what I need right now. And I've had plants pop up in my garden that I've needed because I'd been pouring out, and she's reading, like, she's activating seeds that are fucking dormant just because she can feel like what is needed in that DNA. So this is part of this conversation of like also rematriation, like rematriating psychedelics. So rematriation means like the action, the everyday action of reinforcing our relationship to Mother Earth, like reinforcing like the divinity of the human family and all the non-human relatives with our place here on the land. And part of the colonization practice was to remove people from land.
Oh, and oh, have they?
And oh, have they? And so for us to come back to the land, for us to give our blood back and, you know, give our placentas back after birth, if that's something that we are choosing to do, like this is tying us so intimately with the land. It's like we will die to protect it because we are literally in the land now.
I planted my placenta and grew a tree on top of it, and like that was just my first mind. Like, you're not gonna take all my like my all my shit. Like, I don't trust that you're gonna like
it goes into medical waste anyway.
Well, that's what they say. They know. They know the power of the placenta.
Yeah. If we do, they do.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and they're using it for themselves.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I brought my own container. I'll take that. And now the tree is huge. It's like a huge tree, and
it's been feeding off of that.
Yeah, and I didn't like that was just my first mind because I'm not gonna send this off to get encapsulated. Like, but you're not gonna take my shit. I'm not gonna keep it in the freezer. Like, just plant a tree.
Just bring it down into the earth.
Yeah, but you know, I just like even thinking about, you know, living in a country that has really taken people and put them in a foreign place. It's like, you know, I've often thought about that, like how confusing for the, like, I mean, it's apparent in our culture, you know, like African American like history is so dark, but like when you take someone's music, their culture, their religion, their sense of self, their pride, there is so much confusion.
Everything?
They're everything. You literally set off of people into like the abyss of like white supremacy and like the patriarchy, and it's like that's a very confusing, you know, obviously there's like a state of confusion amongst the people, and we've seen that in so many ways. And it's like it's interesting what you're saying is because you don't necessarily have to go back to the motherland to get that again, but if we take the time to just connect to the land anywhere, like we will start to like awaken these things because we are genetically, you know, like that we're connected no matter what, no matter where we're at.
Our DNA is in the land.
Yeah.
A really dope herbalist. Sorry, do you want to go ahead and say something first? A really dope herbalist. She taught me. She's so cool too. We were sitting in a mushroom circle, and then in the morning we do earth-based integration. So we like go back to the land and like situate ourselves in the earth. And she came and she led like a really beautiful plant walk, and she told all of us that the best way to introduce yourself to a new piece of land is to pee on it.
Well, I was like, well,
I do that shit anyway.
I've been implanting my DNA
all over the world.
I knew I was one with the land, one way or another. It was the pee.
And all of these things that connect us are like seen as savage. Like people look at you with your blood on the ground, or like you peeing outside and be like, ew, that's so like improper. That's so like savage. And it's like, good.
There's worse shit that can happen.
Good. I'm a human being. I'm a human animal. It's okay to be a human animal.
I'm a human animal. It's true.
You were going to say something.
I forgot.
Okay.
Yeah. I have so much to say. I'm like so deep in this conversation. You know, it's even back to the like even, you know, me and Erica often say, like, and I did this, I did your thing the other day about like the anatomy of the woman. Like so many women haven't even like looked at their vaginas. Like, you know, like no one's ever told you go look at your vagina in the mirror.
It looks like a rose.
You're like, my mom never told me go look at my vagina in the mirror. You know, it does, but. You know, Erica did it with her daughter, and I didn't. Like, the opportunity hadn't really come up, but then recently it did. And I was like, "Come here." She's like, "What?" I was like, "Come here." And I closed the door, and I locked the door, and I like propped her legs And I put a mirror and I was like, have you ever looked at your vagina? And she's like, no, stop. I was like, no, you should look at it. But, you know, and she was all like, okay, mom. I'm like, you see, like, this is how you know how to wash it. This is your outer labia. This is your inner labia. This is like where you pee from. Yeah. You know, I'm like, no, you have to look at it. So it's you. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm like, mommy has it. 100. Like, you know, it looks different and it's going to, you know, evolve. But like, you know, so I have to clean correctly. I was really excited to have this opportunity because Erica had been done it. And I was like, when is it going to be my time?
You have to make the time.
Yeah,
there's
like, hey, by the way,
time.
But like this conversation, us feeling innately shamed about our period, like you don't really like, oh, I'm on my period, or like even for me now, like there's certain things like people start like you know that some things seem abrasive, and I'm like, why am I, you know, because I love birth. I'm a birth like consuming bitch on YouTube. I showed my daughter like so much natural birth, and she's like, I don't want to have kids. I'm like, did I scar her for life? But it's like that same concept that, you know, I always think like, how can you really know your full self if you're afraid to look at your vagina in the mirror? You know, like if you're not acknowledging it, it's like, usually you're not acknowledging your pleasure. You're not acknowledging certain parts of you.
Well, you have to take it. You have to like take a step further. It's like, okay, now the blood. Now what else? What else that comes through? Right. I was thinking about just, I think a lot of the shame, at least for girls or young girls when they get their period, is like that first time that they bleed through their like pants, or they bleed.
It's so confronting.
Or they bleed on the bed.
Or even if you see it, like I've seen a tampon string out of a bathing suit. That is like mortifying. I had my tampon string at a nude beach, and I was like, I was like, bitch, you're at a nude beach. This is what you're terrified about?
You had no protection.
But I think about like those moments are really defining for a young woman, and also just, you know, how the person, like how her parent reacts to it, and can totally change the trajectory of your experience.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And, you know, I've talked about this on the podcast about like my first period experience, and my mom, the first thing she said was, well, first of all, it was panic. It was on my 11th birthday, and it was a pool party birthday, of course.
Oh, of course.
And, you know, her, like, I could see her trying to keep it cool, but I was like anxious because I wasn't prepared for this. I don't even think I knew what a period was. Like, she had hid her period from me. So I didn't know that it existed, and so there I was bleeding.
And why do moms do that?
I don't know. I mean,
why don't they think they're gonna warn you that you might fall off a bike, but not that you're gonna bleed between your legs for 4 days? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
for years
seems basic.
And so, yeah, I remember bleeding, and then, you know, it was like, oh my god, it was like almost like like this hurry and clean up thing. I think, and this is not like a slight to her at all, like, you know, but. There was that, and then it was like, oh, now you can get pregnant. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot of information on day one of, I didn't even know why the fuck I'm bleeding. Like, what? You know? And so, you know, I think that there's a lot of shame wrapped around those first experiences with when you're a young girl. And then, you know, as you mature and your period changes, and, you know, even noticing this, my last period, I was clotting, and I normally, like, my periods are pretty, like, easy. And so even because I'm so much more mindful, I'm like, something feels different. I feel more tired. And I was curious even this month, like, what's different in me? Like, that is, that this is like a shift. And, like, I swear I had this instinct to like go in the toilet and pick it up. And like, I wanted to touch it, and I didn't do it because I was like, that's fucking weird. And I don't, but like, why not? Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, it is of me.
I mean, I have like when there's something like thick, I'm like, what the fuck? It's a little bit like.
There's been times where I have touched, like, if it's like you know, like the toilet paper, but like, have I ever touched it? Really looked at it, said, what the fuck is that? Poked it. Like, why is it more red this month than last month? Like, not really knowing the health of your womb.
Totally.
But like, we talk about womb care so much on the internet. There's all these womb cares and all these different things, but there's still, I think, a lack of an avoidance that happens. You want other people to handle your womb care. Like, there's still this like lack of sovereignty over your womb. You want people to deal with it for you, even in a holistic way. And, you know, I think like even me in my mind, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I saw your video where you were putting blood on your face, and I was like, whoa.
Thankfully, that was just red paint, because I knew TikTok was gonna fuck me.
I was like, how is it?
But I still
but I had to ask myself, like, so like, why is that weird? And
it's hers, right?
You know, and there is like a huge stigma around using what comes from our body for things, but we will fucking let a man nut all over our face and swallow it in 5 seconds. You know, like,
wait, you want me to swallow it?
Oh, you want me to use your semen for a facial?
Sure,
no
Daddy.
problem. Like, give me your semen. Let me put it all over my face and go to sleep.
And then
with
go
it.
tell your friends. And then he nutted on my face, and I let him.
But we're afraid to touch.
But like, I would never tell Erica. Like, and then put a little blood on my pimple.
And then I touched my clot, and then I like observed it. Like,
so this morning, I went to my clots. Everything seems normal. Like, my nigga's nut on my face. I tested my nigga's nut. Everything seems good. We're
really healthy.
Radical body literacy
smart.
is just not as hot as being a fucking hoe. You know, being a porn star for men.
Our sacred honus and our womb care together as one. No hierarchy.
Well, and I'm just like, yo, can men feel like as loving and as confident with like menstrual blood all over their face?
I've had men. I mean, I've
had some men that are not scared of not scared of blood at all, and then I've had ones that are like, I'll wait. Like, I don't want, like, this. I've literally had a guy say, like, isn't that your time to bleed? Like, shouldn't you, like,
go away?
Basically, like, do your, like, trying to tell me what the fuck
it's
I
like
need to do.
intimacy is my thing right now.
Like, what do you mean?
Right,
You're gonna tell me
my body is telling me what
I should be doing with my body.
Right.
Like, you're gonna tell me. Just say you don't want
to do
You're
that.
scared. But you know what? Also, I don't know what we were watching, but or what I was listening to, but they were saying that you know, just like the power of menstrual blood is like the highest level of like ritual that you can like participate in is sex magic and blood magic.
Yeah.
And you know, like,
and you could get both with having sex on your period.
And exactly, and I've done that. But like, even, you know, like me and Orlando's blood bond, which is like, I don't know what ever inspired me to allow some guy that I knew for a month to put blood on my chest from his initials. But ever since then, we've been rocking hard, you know. So it works, you know. But that's why you have to be careful of having period sex with people, like, and just like respecting the fluids that come of your body, and like not just like throwing them away. And it comes with also just respecting the sovereignty and the divinity of your existence. And I think that's also transition, is like the big word you used in, you know, remembering the divine in you.
Entheogen.
Entheogen.
Like menstrual blood is an entheogen.
Entheogen.
Yeah.
So it's just like I feel like it's like one of the ceremonies in, you know, coming back to your own divinity and like being aware of the substances that you know, even like breast milk, like, you know, what we secrete when we come, like they're all sacred because they come from us, and we are like divine goddess women. You know,
we're just exuding elixirs of life.
Yes,
from every orifice.
Literally, I saw something on your page too about like how society should treat women that are bleeding. How should they treat us?
Give us some damn rest, please. Time off of work. Let us sleep. Give us some food, give us some chill. Like, I really do feel like these women-run businesses now are taking acknowledgement of this. But for the most part, like, people working their 9-to-5s, they don't get time off for bleeding. There's no, like, there's hardly even the mental health, like, time off. And then the maternity leave and extended family leave is fucking atrocious in this country. No. So why would we even care about bleeding people?
Definitely not caring about bleeding people.
Yeah, they're barely even giving a shit about women who just gave birth.
And that's also part of, like, the womb, like, the womb negligence that we experience in society. Like, even women don't feel empowered, don't know a lot about birth, so they're going into hospitals and just signing away, like, their whole rights, like, do whatever, and then you leave fucking cut open, and you're wondering why. Yeah, because you gave that, like, we could disconnect from this part, and we're like, fuck it, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to stuff it with tampons. I'm going to take it to the doctor when it's time to birth. And like, these are all times that are actually like rites of passage and like paths to source, that if we had the tools, we could be tapping into ourselves and to God. But we're so afraid of them because everyone said it's gross and weird that we just say, like, fuck it, you do it.
I think these divinities become really apparent when some people decide to build a relationship with earth medicine, and in those experiences with earth medicine, like, dive into their wombs. That's part of the care that I offer some people, is like yoni steam we were talking about. There's so much that comes up during yoni steam that can come up during yoni steam, like maybe if you're not watching like a movie or whatever, but you know, it doesn't really matter. I just feel like people can like drop into their body, whether that's through dance, whether that's through yoni steaming, or like womb massage, or bleeding time, or being in postpartum. Like, there are these times where, you know, we can pull into our body a little bit and ask these questions of like, what's going on? I want to massage myself. I want to feel myself. And to those experiences, I add mushrooms. To those experiences where it's mushrooms have the capacity to bring us deeper into our bodies. So why not bring in these body practices and like reading our menstrual blood and being with our menstrual blood in congruence with mushrooms? And I find that because mushrooms allow us like a non-linear way of knowing something, it like brings us kind of to, it can give us the image instead of the sentence. Like, you're a bad person because of this. It like will show you or like demonstrate the feeling in your body that you get. And so when people like place hands on their womb and we're like in journey space and like we're sitting with our womb or we're like breathing and meditating, or in my experience, I was going through an at-home pregnancy release last year. And so while I was in my release process, I ate a gram of mushrooms because I was like, I really want to understand, like, why did I get pregnant and with who, and what does this release mean for me beyond the greater context of not right now, not at this time. I'm like, cosmically, like, what's the deal? What is the big lesson here? And I feel that mushrooms absolutely assisted me in like getting the gem, like the nugget of, this is why you're going through this initiation right now. And this is the yes that the universe is allowing you to negotiate right now. It's not always like the, no, I don't want to get pregnant. No. It's like, there's a teacher that talks about like tuning into the yes. What is the yes in the situation? It's like, yes, like I'm praying for life. I'm praying for another chance. Like I'm praying for this lesson. Yes, I'm praying for the soul to be released back. And this can be a sacred process, and the mushrooms like reaffirming that divinity, reaffirming like the sex and the pregnancy releases and the breakups and those transitions like Queen of Food talked about can be facilitated and made more like a rite of passage.
Ceremonial.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, you know, on that note, I want to continue this conversation, but I want to continue it on Patreon because I think we're getting into like the nitty gritty of like a lot of like cool conversations that I think people are interested in. Yeah. And, you know, I know that you like when you're talking about, you know, birth releases, like I think for those who don't know what that means, it means like at-home abortions, right? Essentially. And that can be a really, you know, difficult triggering topic for some people. Absolutely. Too, and not knowing that they're not having the knowledge too around what that looks like, and you actually having sovereignty over what that looks like, and not being such a medicalized experience. And also, I really want to talk to you about pregnancy and mushrooms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think obviously is a super stigmatized, overly 100%. Stigmatized topic.
Yeah.
And obviously we got to still dig into the sacred hoe. Because
yes,
that's necessary.
We're not done there yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Aspects of the sacred hoe, like preconception, conception, pregnancy, postpartum, like it's all within the sacred hoe archetype. So like,
and I feel like I have so much of my business to tell. I have so many questions.
So make sure you go and click the link in this episode description to hear the rest of this episode on Patreon. Make sure to go to Patreon or go to patreon.com/goodmomsbadchoices to listen to the rest of this really interesting conversation with Michaela. Well, before we get out of here, this has been so lovely. Thank you so much, Michaela.
Can I gift you your gift?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because I heard our sister might be in need of this.
Both the sisters.
How long have you not been on birth control?
Probably since right after I had my daughter, so like 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for you to like come back into your ovulatory cycles too, because that's it's like birth control, but it's really like ovulation suppression. And so you'll be ovulating really regularly. And so like your whole life is just going to like catapult. So purple is for you. This is the Queen Anne's Lace tincture. And I want us to try it while we're here because it's really yummy. Do you mind passing it? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it won't make you bleed right now, but it's an implantation.
I'm already bleeding.
I'm
at the end of my
totally
bleeding.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this going to make her bleed? I'm going to start her period
No,
early?
she's good. This is an implantation inhibitor.
Okay.
It's the same or they're different?
They're the same.
Okay.
It's tinctured in tequila. It has a little.
Yes, baby.
Girls.
Okay. Yes.
It has a little bit of cotton root bark syrup, so it's sweet and loving.
Oh, so cotton root
There's
bark
a little
is
bit
sweet.
in there.
Okay.
So go ahead and shake it up real good. And then what we like to pray is just like some intentions for our body. So we can shake and say or visualize, right, the desired outcome, which is to stay baby free for a little while longer, praying for release or whatever it is that feels right for you. And then you'll go ahead and open it, squeeze the top a little bit, and then drop it on the tongue or under it. Doesn't matter.
One full.
Is that enough?
Just like that. And let it just sit in your mouth for a second and taste the tequila. Mm-hmm. This is Queen Anne's lace. She's a beautiful offering for your womb and your families. And to remember that there is a sacred yes in this negotiation, whether that's yes for medicine, yes for pregnancy, yes for pleasure. She can help us tune into our sacred yes. So thank you so much for letting me offer these to you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Girl, I take shots of these. The reason I even have these for others is because I make 5 gallons a year. That's it. Just 5 gallons, one batch.
And then you keep it.
And then I keep it for myself.
It's recommended to take these when exactly?
So after semen exposure.
After semen exposure.
Yeah. Okay. You had intimacy. That's my natural birth control guide. You could just scan that into your phone. Oh, wow. 18 pages of education, free books, videos, amazing. All this good shit.
Wow.
So
is that
yeah,
on this here as well too?
That'll take you to it. And so just education is liberation. And so a lot of people don't step into this path because they just don't know what's available. So just helping people to know that this is available, accessible, and honestly not very expensive either. And really back to that literacy, back to like, I can hold myself and my community can hold me too is such a luscious and sexy ass feeling.
I love this.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll definitely include the links to your shop and all of your offerings in this episode description. Before we get out of here, 2 things. Do you have an affirmation that you can share with our tribe?
I am the embodiment of my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I am the embodiment of my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Thank you.
I resonate with that. I've had a few very clear moments in that feeling. I mean, this is one of them, but like very distinct moments, especially near water, where that comes up for me.
Absolutely.
And we did we pulled the Page of Swords. Or should we do a Hori first, or do you want to do this, my loves, first?
I can read the Page of Swords. Page of Swords is new ideas, curiosity, thirst for knowledge, new ways of communicating. So interesting. We're communicating with the plants.
That's right.
The Page of Swords is full of energy, passion, and enthusiasm. When this card shows up in a tarot reading, you're bursting with new ideas and plans for the future. You may be excited about starting a new project, pursuing a new approach, or learning something new. I am. You have so much energy that you feel though you could do almost anything, and you can. You can have sovereignty over your body.
Oh, I thought that was like really in the
I know too. I was like, what?
The challenge, however, is whether you can keep it up. As with all pages, the beginning always looks promising, but you need something else to follow through and keep up the pace. The Page of Swords often emerges when you are exploring a new way of thinking, a new idea, a new perspective, new knowledge, or a new technique, like birth control. You have a curious mind and a thirst for knowledge as you explore this fresh way of thinking. You are asking lots of questions. Plants, are you for me? And gathering as much information as possible. Gathering the plants. You're also very much in the exploratory phase and not mastery. You may be prone to making mistakes along the way, but your curiosity means that you are eager to learn from your slip-ups. As the swords relate to communication, this Page of Swords suggests that you are exploring a different way of expressing yourself with others and communicating your ideas and opinions. You may be drawn to public speaking.
What the fuck?
Writing a book or a blog, starting a podcast, or being more vocal on social media.
So crazy.
You're a natural communicator and ready to take the next step to share your message with the world. Again, this is an exploratory phase, so be open to new ways of expressing yourself and discovering where your inner talent lies.
Love it.
I love that.
And hopefully also for other people in the audience too, to be resonating with these messages. Because if this is new for people, I hope it like encourages people to like still feel hungry
No, I
Still
think
feel hungry.
there's so much rich information in this space, and if you didn't get to tune into Patreon, I want to encourage you to, because we had a really beautiful conversation over there, and then we really got to dig deep and really explore new things that I'm really interested in learning more about. So I'm really grateful that you've come on the show and shared all your knowledge. You're so knowledgeable.
I know, you're so smart. Thank you. I feel so happy that I have a new friend that I'm like, hey girl, I have a question. Like, you're like,
you know, and it's just like honing this toolbox that, you know, we feel like again, we're putting these tools in other people's hands when we have them. We have all the things that we need right here in front of us. We don't need to spend, you know, thousands of dollars on things that they're mimicking in nature.
Right.
They're like right here.
Absolutely.
Did you have a hoary that you can share with us,
Right,
darling?
a hoe-ass story.
Do you have a hotel, you sacred hoe you?
You know, so sometimes when I'm in like the peak of orgasm, I teleport or I have this like embodied experience of kind of being in like a different space and time. The brain does amazing things when you're orgasming. So it's just like, I have had visions in sex. And so I'm thinking of two stories. One where I was with a dear friend of mine who we had this funny relationship, and I didn't quite put my finger on why, but when we had sex, it became really clear. Or what would you rather hear about a teleport to a past life experience that was actually proven to be true?
Oh, that one sounds kind of cool. I like that.
So that one was, so I was actually sitting with mushrooms, and I was with my partner, my baby daddy now. And we were intimate in my like college space, my college apartment, which was like a trip dome. Like it had like a black light. It had all these cool posters in it. It's like the, you know, I guess stereotypical like tripping room. And so all of that shit was on. It was just beautiful lighting in there. And I was intimate with him, and I was like, I was peeking, I was riding him, and then I started like getting really emotional. Like, I feel like I'm not going to see you again. I don't know why I'm missing you so much, but you're like right here. And I started holding him, and I was like, don't go. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm just like, I then got brought back to an experience where I was living on an island, and he was in like military gear. And I looked at him, and he was leaving, and we had this like relationship while he was deployed or stationed like in my region. And so I had this like big like release of like the orgasm, and also just this like, I'm never gonna see him again. And so when I came down, I told him, I was like, hey, I had this really strange shift where I looked different and you looked different. I was crying because like you were leaving, and I was on an island. I was on Hawaii. It was really clear I was on Hawaii, and you were in military uniform and you were leaving. And he's like, that's so funny because like my great grandfather was like stationed in Hawaii.
Wow.
Like many generations before that. And I was like, I feel, and ever since I had first met him, like I felt like I'd known him from somewhere. As the day we met, the night we met, I was like, I know him from somewhere. Like he's super familiar to me. And so me telling him that, I was like, yeah, I have this weird storyline with you that like you left after some point. And it was so sweet because he's like, well, I'm not going to leave right now. And I was like, hey, like it was really dope. It just like reaffirms to me that sometimes these like hunches that we have, or this like feeling of familiarity with some folks, I really do believe a lot of us are circling around in each other's lives, like over and over and over.
Yeah.
And that orgasm is a portal. And so I was like just brought to this space where maybe at a certain time that his family member and like myself or a family member of mine might have had this actual exchange sometime.
Wow.
And orgasm brought me to that.
That's
And mushrooms brought me to that too.
Yes.
Mushrooms will really bring you to some like deeper spiritual love and understanding of a motherfucker. Like you're like, oh shit, I'm in love.
Absolutely. But
Well, thank you for sharing that.
having me here.
Thank you.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you.
Yeah.
Can you tell our audience where they can find you and all your amazing information?
Yeah. So my website is mushwomb.love. I even got my car license plate mush womb. Oh, so cute. I'm so excited for this terminology. And then my Instagram is Mama Della Mico, and also my TikTok is Mama Della Mico also. And I answer all my DMs. I love getting into, people's questions. I think that's where like the bulk of community care comes from, is like, I'm a child of Yahoo Answers. Like, am I pregnant or whatever? Like asking questions to the internet. And I feel like now we can ask like people, directly from people that we feel like we want to learn from. And it's so cool to be in like a role where I can just share what I know. So yeah, please, reach out to me. Also, Plant B and all of these other good medicines like menstrual sea sponges I have access to and I love to share with my community. I also make an emmenagogue tea that like helps people bleed when they want to, and I sell cotton root bark capsules too. And so really like try to resource my community, because I remember when I was going through my shit, like it's not readily accessible like right then and there. So if people have it like well stocked in their space, they'll never have to feel like they're in a rush or in an emergency, or when their friends need something, they have it ready on hand. So I just want to get this medicine into the right people's hands so that we never feel like we are scrambling to get help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you again.
Of course.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you go rate and review us on Apple Podcasts if you have not. Please go check out our book, A Good Mom's Bad Choices. It is officially on pre-order.
Good Mom's Guide to Making Bad Choices.
Oh yeah, Good Mom's Guide to Making Bad Choices. And it's coming out next month, you guys. It's almost release time, and we're so excited for you guys to get your hands on this book. We're so excited for you guys to listen to the audio version of our book. And we do have a gift with purchase when you order the book, so make sure you get your free gift from your moms, from your favorite mamas.
And give them to all your mom friends or your non-mom friends, because it doesn't really matter. It's for all women.
Here for the fine-ass aunties, too.
Here for the fine-ass aunties, too. And make sure you hear the uncensored version of this episode on Patreon, and follow us on Instagram, and follow the Good Vibe Retreat on Instagram. And we love you. Rate and review us. Bye.
Bye.
En la noche solo puedo